Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest. Going to be very special to Oklahoma State fans. Daytawion Lowe, safety from 2009 to 2013, joins OState Daily. Even more special to me because being in Guthrie, I got to see Daytawion at Carl Albert and how awesome he was. Got to see him on the competing side, so I didn't enjoy his Carl Albert career near as much as I did his Oklahoma State career. But hey, Daytawion, it's great to see you again. How the heck are you? And welcome into OState Daily.
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Very, very good. Hey, I wanted to dive in. Of course, I believe it was 08. Guthrie was very good back then. So was Carl Albert. It was a huge rivalry. And I was actually on the radio call that night. And you actually, I think Coach Rose actually had you, I'm going to have you tell the story, but I think you changed jerseys, lined up at tight end, caught a touchdown pass. Can you take us through what you remember of that whole sequence?
That was quite a while ago, but I'll say I think it was Coach Johnson. He might have came up with the play. I'm pretty sure he's still the offensive coordinator at Carl Albert right now. And they just kind of dialed up a play, and I was just coachable on the whole thing. I really didn't have anything to do with it. They just came up with it, and I kind of rolled with it. Said we were going to change. I think we were doing it the whole time, but we never was going to change the jersey. It was just kind of like a thing where I would duck down in the huddle and then go up to the line, and they thought like, dang, if they see number 8 right there, they gonna know something is up. So It was kind of like a couple of times before, maybe a couple of days, maybe even the day before. I can't really remember. They just said that we're going to switch the jersey. I mean, I just was coachable, road with it. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I just remember on the radio call, you can go back and listen to it. It's like, if Carl Albert has a tight end that is that fast, we are absolutely screwed.
Man, it was a great play. It was really, it was all my coaches. I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, and that stinking David Oku you played with, David Oku, who played his college football at Arkansas State. That stinking wheel route, man, he got us on that every single time, didn't he?
Man, great athlete, man. He was a great all-purpose back, man. He really didn't have too many weaknesses.
Yeah, and JT Realmuto, the catcher for the Phillies, was your quarterback too, right?
Yeah, my senior year. JT, man, another great athlete, but he was just a great athlete all around. I mean, one of the best athletes just all around, could play all sports that I probably ever played with.
If memory serves me correct, he replaced Joe Stoner, and Joe Stoner was like the world's best at that quarterback duck play. It was like a play that was so simple and you could never stop it, right?
Yeah, I mean, give you that extra blocker with that quarterback sneak, and he was just big and strong. Yeah. I mean, hard to bring down. So, I mean, it was kind of like a good mastermind by Coach Rose. He just, man, he knew how to win, and he knew how to get his players the ball, I would say.
Yeah, he knew how to wear shorts, too, on the sideline, even when it was like 5 degrees outside, didn't he?
That's just that mental toughness, that mental edge.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to get into your Oklahoma State career here in a minute, but I want to talk about something that's very passionate to you even right now. You did go to Carl Albert, but you grew up in the Spencer area, which is a very rural area, and you grew up loving horses. And I know you've even raced horses like at Remington Park. You have some land out in western Oklahoma, that kind of thing, where you go ride horses. So talk about that passion and what you're doing with that even now.
It's just something I've always been around, in the country. Man, it's animals. So, I mean, I've always been an animal lover. My dad rode horses. I mean, they were just always around. I kind of grew up into an inheritance of Tennessee Walkers. So as I was growing up, we always had Tennessee Walkers. So that's kind of how I got started, and I just went from there. On the flip side, after football, I got a good friend, as he's from Spencer too, so he kind of always raced horses. When I was in college, I used to come back down and watch him race and go to his races, and then afterwards, he just kind of drew me in. I mean, and that's how I got started in that field.
Nickname Thumper, right, at OSU?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you hit hard, right?
That's what they say.
Oh, okay. You and Markel Martin and Johnny Thomas, you guys all hit hard, right, back in the day. But, hey, I got to say, you were known as being very cerebral, too. You were always in the right spot. You knew what the offense was going to do before they knew they were going to do it. But then you were a very hard hitter but combined with the fact that you played the last 39 games of your career without ever getting injured. I mean, how did that? You mentioned that extra that mental toughness by Coach Rose. That had to have all played into it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just being tough. Playing football, you have to be tough. I'm not gonna say I never had any injuries. I just didn't have any injuries that stopped me from playing. So I mean, you play football, you're gonna get nicks, bruises, banged up. I mean, it's just you got to be there for your teammates, and that's just one of the things that I kind of could not live with, kind of not being out there with my teammates, knowing that I could help them out.
Knowing you're the type of guy that did everything you could, put your body in harm's way for your team, but did what they call you posted every week, meaning you were there to start and be in the lineup every week for your team. And then seeing kind of where college football has gone with the NIL and transfer portal, it's not quite as, you're not playing for the brand quite as much. Does it seem a lot different to you nowadays, or does it seem like football still?
It's totally different. I mean, just watching it and seeing it, I mean, the game kind of done changed in a softer way to me that on the football tip. On the other end, it's just the loyalty. I think it's kind of like a big loyalty jump now. People don't really have the loyalty for their program. It's kind of more about the money. So if they get the right offer, they kind of can jump ship, and they kind of made it easier for them to do that. I remember back when I was in school, you really just couldn't change schools, and if you did, you had to sit out a year, so it cost you. It was a penalty to change schools. Now it's kind of just like a gift.
Yeah, right. And you came in 2009, and you got off to a good start, got some special teams action in, you got to play a little bit, and then you're off to a great start, looked like you're going to have a great career. Then you get injured in your true sophomore year in 2010. Take us through that process.
It was really just a spring practice. We was having a spring practice, and I think the wide receiver was Michael Harrison, another sophomore. He was coming into his sophomore year, and he just, I think it was just like a bang bang play. We were out of pads. We were just kind of working out, and he kind of I was going for the ball. He was going for the ball. Made a little collision. I fell, came down on my shoulder. Didn't really know it was that bad at the time, but ended up having to sit out in the whole year. It was a tough time for me. Just like you said, I mean, I never not played. I don't think up until that point I never not played or suited up in a game to play. So it was really a rough time for me. I mean, it hurt a lot just being away from the game.
Yeah, of course, you had Des Bryant, and then you had Justin Blackman, and that whole group, Tracy Moore, and the great group there. You had Darius Bowman before Des Bryant. But I still say Michael Harrison. I remember the game he had at K-State in 2010. That was just simply phenomenal, where Oklahoma State came back and won that game. Him and Hubert Anium, I still think those are maybe the two most underrated receivers at Oklahoma State in the last 20, 30 years. They were good, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Hubert was fast, man. Yeah. I mean, he was just hard to cover. I think at that time, man, we had a lot of good wide receivers, and a lot of guys got overshadowed by just, I say one guy in front of them that might have been the same grade at them, and they just didn't get the same amount of snaps. But, I mean, when Michael Harrison came in as a freshman, he was definitely competition. I mean, he could go and get the ball. His ball skills was amazing.
They absolutely were. Hey, I want to take you back to your side on the defensive side of the ball, and one of your mentors, Markel Martin, another very hard-hitting safety, and he's from Wichita Falls, Texas, and I've known a lot of people from Wichita Falls, and they have all been just boot leather tough. I mean, just tough as nails, just like you are. So talk about your relationship with Markel Martin and what he meant to you.
Markel was just a good leader. I mean, he said he set the bar, and he kind of led by example. I mean, you talk about a guy that just worked hard. He worked hard. He was always kind of in the film room, wanting to study, wanting to get better, challenged each other. If you did something wrong, he was there to coach you. He was just a great guy and a great leader.
Of course, the offenses are still good in the Big 12, but not as good as they were when you played in the Big 12. When you're talking about 09, 10, 11, and 12 and 13. Those were some incredibly insane good offenses back during that time. What was it like playing week in and week out against offenses that were that good, even in practice every week?
It was great. I mean, competition is part of it, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not fun when you go out there and you just kind of like beating team 40-0 or stuff like that. The good games is what brings out the best players. So, I mean, it was, like you said, action-packed seasons. We had great players. They had great players. It was just, I can't really describe it how it was. It was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and, I mean, we had fun.
Yeah. Of course, you're on the defensive side of the ball, but you were there in the transition from Coach Gundy calling the plays on offense to Dana Holgerson coming in and calling the plays in 2010 and then 2011. I know you're on the defensive side of the ball, but still you had to defend it every day in practice. What was that like when Dana Holgerson came in?
It changed up. He was just different. You know, you kind of, when you practice with a person and you're there every day, you kind of grab their tendencies and stuff. So with him coming in, it changed a lot. He was a smart guy. I mean, he really would pick us apart in practice, man. I mean, it was tough. It was tough to start with. Had great athletes. And I think one of his best things is he would actually come and talk to us like, why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we learned off of them and they learned off of us. So, I mean, the best thing it was just a great change up for us, especially at the time with the weapons that we had.
No doubt. I can imagine Markel Martin, Johnny Thomas, Daytawion Lowe, all the great safeties and corners that Oklahoma State had going up against Tracy Moore and Justin Blackman and all these great receivers. Those had to be some really spirited practices.
Yeah, we just got better. I mean, it was more getting better each day. I don't know about, like, we really didn't, I don't think we really had too many arguments or fights like that. It was more just, man on man, see who was better. And if they beat us today, tomorrow we was on the hunt. We was going to get them. So, I mean, it was just a competition level. The competition level was always high. And when you got great athletes like that, it just fuels it.
All right, let's get into the fun. 2011, not only is that season monumentally historic for Oklahoma State, it was for you as well. You got your first start. Of course, you came in 2009, you got to play a little bit, got hurt in 2010, got to make your first start against the University of Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns, the first game of 2011. Tell us what you remember about your first start.
Oh, I was nervous. It was a lot of people in those stands, man, and all I was thinking is if I mess up. But I prepared. Like I say, one thing I always did was compete. So when you're competing, you're preparing. So, I mean, I was ready. I felt like I was ready. It just was kind of like nervous. I was ready to get that first play out the way and see the game speed, different stuff like that. But once I got that first play and especially that first tackle, I mean, I kind of just settled in and it kind of just became football to me.
How long did it take for you? You know, Coach Gundy talks about the 15 games. How long did it take for you for the game to slow down?
It just depends. We played so many different teams. I mean, I think that whole year it was just up and down. You had to be ready. Everything, every week it was a different challenge. So, I mean, for me being a freshman, being a first year starter out there, man, it was every week was something different for me. So I don't want to say that I might have calmed down or the game might have slowed down in the bowl game, maybe. I mean, it still didn't slow down to me. I mean, I had a good keen for the game, but it was, you had to be on your toes.
Yeah. Well, you definitely had to be on your toes because after you got your first start in week 1 against Louisiana, week 2, you got to face an NFL quarterback in Nick Foles. I mean, that had to be a lot of fun, didn't it?
Man, it was great. Like I said, the competition level was high. So I actually got to play with Nick Foles with the Eagles. So it's crazy. It's crazy that it was my first NFL quarterback, first college quarterback that I kind of went to the NFL. I can't really just recall that much because I didn't really know who he was at that time. It was just kind of like another game. Yeah. So I didn't really look at it like who he was at that time. It was just another player, another game that we was trying to win.
Of course, 2011 was an amazing season. It was a season that Oklahoma State should have played in the national championship game. just tell us overall. I know it was a long time ago, but overall, what are the memories that you have taken away from that experience in 2011?
Just the camaraderie of the group. I mean, man, we had an amazing group of just guys that wanted to win. I think our will to win was just very high. We believed in each other, and it was a belief and it was a trust. So we trusted. I trusted that the offense was going to do their job. They trusted we was going to do our job. If they wasn't doing their job, we held them accountable. I mean, it was simple as that. It wasn't no pointing fingers, but it's more like, hey, let's get it going. Let's get it going. We doing our job. Y'all gonna match us. And the competition level was so high that you don't want to be in the locker room and you're the reason why we lost this game. So, I mean, it's just kind of the competition between the offense and the defense and just the guys that wanted to win. Man, it was kind of, I never been a part of nothing like that.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. Hey, I did not put this on the question sheet, so I'm going to go blind at this, and I'm going to ask you, did you ever pick off Brandon Whedon in practice? And if not, did you ever come close and think you had one, but he threw it so hard it got right by you?
Yeah, I picked him off before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like he threw so hard that I think I jammed my finger or something. So I was kind of mad about it. I was like, dang, it wasn't really worth it at the time because it was a game week and now my finger hurting. And I mean, but I did do it. And I mean, it was definitely an accomplishment coming from Whedon.
I'll bet you can remember it like it was yesterday too, right?
I didn't have too many, so yeah, I definitely remember that.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I know you're a very humble human being, but I think you'll have fun with this next question. Okay, 2011, I think everybody, Oklahoma State fans, agree that we should have been in the national championship game over LSU. Les Miles, would Oklahoma State have beaten LSU in 2011?
I'm going to say it would have been a good game. I mean, they had a good team. We had a good team. I don't want to say anything can happen in a football game. But I think we lined up very well against them. I mean, anybody in the country, I think we could have beat. So, I mean, it just would have been depending on which team came out to play and who made the less mistakes in the game. I think it would have been two good teams like any national championship game. But I think we definitely had a good chance.
What was Andrew Luck like to play against in the Fiesta Bowl? That had to be cool.
Man, it was crazy. He probably was the first quarterback that I played that, man, he could put it on the money. You talk about dropping the ball in the breadbasket. He could do it. It showed me the different levels of quarterbacks that year. And like I said, I mean, you talk about a guy that, man, he could get the ball and spin it right there, right where he needed to be. So it was tough trying to guard those guys, and they were big and physical. So, I mean, it was definitely a fun game, and like I say, it was definitely it was trouble out there.
But hey, let's talk about, you mentioned playing with Nick Foles with the Philadelphia Eagles. Talk about that experience. That had to be really cool.
Oh yeah, it was fun. I mean, one of the best experiences of my life, once in a lifetime opportunity. Like I said, Nick Foles, I didn't know him back at Arizona, but when I got to know him up there, I mean, you talk about a very humble guy that's just smart, knows the game, tough. Really, it was just a different level of football. When I got up there, you didn't have nobody that couldn't play. Everybody had the attribute that got them there, and they were good at it. They might not been the best at everything, but what they did good, they did very, very well. So, I mean, it was definitely, you could not take a down off ever.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case. Hey, let's move on to your career after football. Tell us what Daytawion Lowe has been doing since you retired from the game of football, and fill in the gap between then and now.
Really, I just been being a dad. I got 3 girls.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, being a dad, that's one of the funnest parts of my life, man. I mean, I enjoy that to the fullest. Other than that, I've probably been working at Lowe's. I'm assistant store manager at Lowe's in Shawnee. I've been working there for about 6 years now, I want to say.
Daytawion Lowe's working at Lowe's, right?
Hey, gotta keep it in the name.
All right. Fantastic, Daytawion.
And in between that, I just been racing horses. I got a couple English bulldog dogs. I mean, just animals, fooling with animals, raising my kids, and working. That's about it.
You raced a horse at Remington, right?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
That's just, I mean, it was just one of the things that kind of keep me going, kind of keep my competitive edge going. So I got a 2-year-old, and I think we ran, I want to say 300 or 350 yards. I mean, it was just a dead out sprint, with quarter horses. I got quarter horses. It's just a dead out sprint, and I mean, it's a very technical thing. Gate work, it's kind of like track. I look at it like track. It's kind of like track. You got to, coming out the blocks is everything. If you're running a 100-meter dash, that can cost you the race. So the gate work, coming out the gates, it could cost you, especially when you're racing against good horses. And then the other part is just putting the work in, kind of like preparation for football. You got to put the work in. You put the work in, you get ready, and then you just kind of sit back and let the horse do his job and watch the results.
So you're close by. You mentioned that you're in Shawnee, so you have the ability to stay at least somewhat connected to Oklahoma State. So tell us what you think about this year's team.
Tough year. I think it's a tough year. I think we kind of took a big hit with that NIL thing with recruiting and stuff, man. It's just it's different for us. And I think it's been rough for us, and we kind of trying to find a way to get over the edge. This year is just, we had a couple injuries. So, I mean, anytime you have injuries with those big-time guys like we did, it happens. On the offensive end, like with the quarterback situation, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those years. I mean, I'm an Oklahoma State fan to the fullest. Every week, I still feel like we're going to win out. So that's just how I feel.
Absolutely. Daytawion Lowe, this has been such a wonderful honor for me to get to speak with you. This has been so much fun to get to have you in for an interview. So do you have any final thoughts?
No, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. And other than that, man, we go Pokes.